West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, good morning, my fellow Americans. It's a very busy day here on this Wednesday, June 25. Good to have you with us on the Bill Press Show as we tackle all the big stories of the day here in Washington, D.C., all around the country, all around the globe. Nothing escapes us. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. Or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, on the political front, several important primaries yesterday in Mississippi. He did it. Thad Cochran, incumbent Republican senator, beat back Tea Party challenger Chris McDaniel. That's too bad. We were hoping the Tea Party guy could win so Democrats could crush him and bring Mississippi back into the Democratic column. It's going to be a lot tougher with Thad Cochran winning the primary. In Maryland, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown will be the Democratic nominee for governor. Good man. In New York's 13th congressional district, it looks like Charlie Rangel has held on for yet another term in the United States Congress. And out in Colorado, the perennial candidate Tom Tancredo has lost again in the Republican primary for governor. Former President Bill Clinton says Hillary was right. They were broke. We were broke, says Bill Clinton. Plus, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Yes, and Republicans here in Washington are still trying to prove a big conspiracy theory about the IRS. They've been at it for 2 years. They haven't found anything yet, but that doesn't mean that Darrell Issa will stop trying. That's just part of the stories we'll be covering this morning here on the Bill Press Show. Lots of good reasons for hanging around for all 3 hours. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Party takes a bath in Mississippi. Yes, the establishment Republican Party is still very much alive. Thad Cochran winning that primary, just one of the primaries we'll be talking about this morning. Good morning, everybody. Here we go on the Bill Press Show. Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, June 25. I always have a hard time with that. Wednesday mornings. Great to see you today. How about it? Ready to go? With the Bill Press Show, 3 hours of all of the news of the day, plus your comments, plus our great guests this morning. And we got a great lineup for you. And it's good to have you with us. We are so proud and happy to be there with you on your local progressive talk radio station. Been together a long time, and it's good to start off another day together. Don't forget, if you're not lucky enough to have a progressive talk radio station where you live, just download the TuneIn app. That's the app, TuneIn. Look for it. It's free, and on the Progressive Voices channel on the TuneIn app, you will find us everywhere in this country. Also, if you prefer to watch and not just listen, go to Free Speech TV on the DirecTV network and worldwide. Go to youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKRTV. Here we go, Wednesday morning, with most of the team assembled this morning. Elisa Murphy has a couple of days off.
Yeah.
This is the time, we all disappear every now and then for a couple of days. Peter Ogburn,
dog days of summer.
Filling in, doing 2 or 3 jobs together this morning. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, sir. Doing what I can.
Alicia Cruz is back this week on the phones, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And double duty this morning with Cyprian Bolding and Monty Kanzler, both here, the videographers, just to make us look doubly good this morning.
Double trouble.
Double trouble. That's right. That's what it is. So lots to talk about on the political front and here on the news front in Washington, D.C. Everybody ready for the big challenge tomorrow, United States versus Germany in the World Cup at noon East Coast time. That's going to be very, very exciting.
I just want to point out,
we learned yesterday how you win in soccer is you just bite your way through.
Right?
Yes. If you bite them bad enough, they won't be able to score. Right? So,
I just want to let you know,
yes,
as your employee, I wouldn't try and get in touch with me tomorrow between noon and, say, 3 o'clock.
Oh, by the way, no. By the way, it is going to be,
it's going to be bad.
There's no doubt about it. In fact, we have a little clip of that that we hadn't planned to play, but let's play right here since you mentioned that. So this is a guy, his name is John Challenger. He is the head of a company that advises other companies on how to get the most out of their employees, in other words, in terms of productivity. Tomorrow, he already says, forget about it.
If they take a 2-hour break during the workday to watch the game, it should cost employers about $390 million in lost wages and productivity.
Good grief.
They expect everybody to take 2 hours off tomorrow. So you know what? We'd better win.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We spend $390 million and don't win.
If we lose $390 million and we get a win, worth it. Right?
Exactly.
Actually, that's worth it.
But to lose the $390 million
that's
bad.
That'd be bad.
It is. Now, Peter.
Yes, sir.
You're being such a foodie. I just wanted to point out to you this morning. This I found very, very interesting. Already this morning, I have read the dining section of every Wednesday of the New York Times.
Okay.
And I learned something, okay? It says here, how to make a great hamburger.
Oh, okay.
Is the question.
All right.
That has bedeviled the nation for generations. All kinds of talk about, how do you really make the best burger, okay?
Okay.
This is Sam Sifton, and he's
he knows
one
what
of
he's
the
talking
best
about.
food writers in the New York Times. Here it is. The answer is simple. Cook on heavy, according to the nation's best hamburger chefs, cook on heavy cast iron pans and griddles. Cook outside if you like, heating the pan over the fire of a grill, but never on the grill itself. The point is to allow rendering beef fat to gather around the patties as they cook. So all those people who cook burgers on the grill, and I've done it, and I've seen it done thousands of times, are doing it the wrong way. You learned that right here this morning on the Bill Press Show.
How about
in
that?
Time for July 4th.
I understand where they're coming from. I like the crisp,
But you have that little fat around there, and
fat.
it puts some flavor in it, which you lose on the grill because it just drips down. So if you put it on the grill, take your skillet outside and put it on.
Put it right on there. And you should always have a good cast iron skillet.
Yes,
everybody should have one.
Yes, yeah. But isn't that interesting?
That's interesting. I'd never seen that because then you still get the smoke of the grill. On the burger. Because that's the thing I was going to say is I like a griddle burger, but I also like the smoke of the grill.
Yeah. And then the ingredients.
Oh boy!
All right,
here we go.
Again, this is a guy. The classic best burger. Okay, top to bottom. Okay. He's got a big sign in his kitchen. They always do this way. In this order.
Okay.
In this order. That's important, too. The lettuce has to go on top. So, here, in this order. From the top. Bun, lettuce, tomato, cheese, beef, onions,
underneath.
Bun. And then the bun. That's
no
it.
ketchup, no mustard, no mayonnaise.
It doesn't say that. Doesn't say
all right.
I guess it's up to you if you want to put that on.
But I mean, don't ever put ketchup on a burger. Come on.
No,
ketchup on a
I
burger.
wouldn't. No,
all right.
no.
I'm glad we agree on that.
But anyhow, so how about that? Isn't that?
That's good. I like that. Yeah. I like that tip. Using on the. I will absolutely do that.
All right. I saw that this morning. I said I got to tell our good our good friends across America about that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and starting with you. I mean, coming up with right. This is the grilling season.
Oh, yeah. No, it's absolutely grilling.
So don't ruin your burgers by doing them the wrong way.
All right.
Don't let us down. We got what a great list this morning of guests. David Jackson from the White House with USA Today. Big news at the White House yesterday. We'll tell you all about it. Congressman Chris Van Hollen, ranking Democrat from the state of Maryland on the House Budget Committee. And he can talk to us about that big primary in Maryland, as well as some other good stuff Democrats have cooked up in Congress. And Chris Anders from the ACLU to take a look at the Justice Department's memo on the legal use of drones. Does it really make the case? Pardon me. And what is President Obama up to tomorrow in Minnesota? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. The best basketball player in the world is now a free agent. LeBron James yesterday made it official. He is opting out of his final year of his contract with the Miami Heat, meaning that he is on the market. Now, it does not mean that LeBron James is leaving Miami, and it doesn't necessarily come as a huge surprise. What it means is that he can renegotiate a new contract with the Miami Heat, but he could also start a new contract with another team like Knicks or the Mavericks or someone else. So time will tell. We'll know in the next couple of weeks here how it plays out.
Yeah. So what do you think he's going to do?
I think he's going to stay with the Heat. Yeah. I think the Heat is going to make some big changes, but I think at the end he's going to come back to the Heat.
Yeah, seems to me like
I do think that's what's going to happen.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Sad news for San Francisco. Bill, I hate to tell you this, but San Francisco did not get the George Lucas Museum. He has been saying that he's putting together this museum, and he's been trying to find a home for it. San Francisco was lobbying hard because Lucas lives in the area. Yesterday, it was made official.
He lives on Lucas Valley Road.
He lives on Lucas Valley Road. That's right. It was made official yesterday. The museum is going to Chicago.
Whoa.
Chicago gets the George Lucas Museum, which will house $1 billion worth of Americana art and Hollywood memorabilia that Lucas has collected over the years. San Francisco was actively competing fiercely to get the museum.
There's another story. There's a backstory there.
Oh, really?
Which is...
I had a feeling you'd know something about this.
Well, it's been quite controversial. I don't know that much about it, but Lucas wanted to build this in the Presidio, the old Army base, which is a magnificent, magnificent property right on the south side of the Golden Gate Bridge. And the old military base, which is now their office, some offices in there, and they're kind of bringing it back. But he wanted to build some monstrosity, which was totally out of character with the Presidio.
Oh, interesting.
And the city said, yeah, we want you, but not that ugly thing.
Huh.
And basically he said, take it or leave it.
No kidding.
Yeah,
well,
yeah. So
they left it.
Yeah.
They left it. And a very interesting story on Kickstarter. A new documentary called The President's Kitchen Cabinet has been fully funded. It is a story about the legacy of African-American presidential chefs, not always seen in the public eye, but they have worked in the kitchen of the White House all the way back from George Washington to Barack Obama. It's been fully funded. It's going to be made for TV. Not sure where it's going to end up yet. Probably PBS, but it's been fully funded. So very cool. The President's Kitchen Cabinet is what it's called.
I'm surprised the C-SPAN hasn't done that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems perfect for them.
Because they've done so many kind of presidential specials like that.
Yeah.
Wow. How about that?
There you go.
Hey, on a little, I think we ought to start out this morning. The president's going out to Minneapolis tomorrow, and want to talk about that trip as well. But first, do a little rundown here of the primary returns yesterday. That's where all the cable news has started this morning, and where we ought to start as well, because there are a lot of important races to take a look at. The most important of all and the most watched of all, I think, was down in Mississippi. In Mississippi, everybody said, Thad Cochran, 76 years old. He's had 6 terms in the United States Senate. Think about that, 36 years. He wanted to come back for term number 7. And he kind of coasted maybe during the primary. And he ends up in a runoff with Tea Party challenger Chris McDaniel. And everybody said, this proves the Tea Party is still alive. They won in Mississippi. And this proves that Thad Cochran is no longer able to cut the mustard, as a candidate. And historically, incumbent senators or incumbent politicians who are forced into a runoff in the primary almost never win. So everybody expected Chris McDaniel, the Tea Party challenger, to win in Mississippi. In fact, last night I was at an event here in Washington, talking to several of my Democratic friends, including Paul Begala, great former Clinton political advisor, now on CNN, one of the best, smartest political strategists around. E.J. Dionne writes a column for the Washington Post. Talking to them, among others, and all they were talking about was how we might have a chance in Mississippi. We might have a chance because this Chris McDaniel is going to be such a easy target as the Tea Party challenger. Well, what do you know? Chris McDaniel didn't win. After all, Thad Cochran pulled it out. Thad Cochran, yesterday, if we can have Thad Cochran thanking his supporters. One of the interesting things that he did, he made a special effort in the 3-week runoff to reach out to African Americans who had not voted in the primary, so who could still vote even though they were Democrats as Republicans in this runoff, warning them, you don't want, I may not be a Democrat, but I'm better for you than this Chris McDaniel would be. Thad Cochran thanking everybody yesterday.
You are the ones who helped reach all the voters, make sure that we knew that they were important to this election because it's a group effort, it's not a solo. And so we all have a right to be proud of our state tonight. Thank you very much.
Well, he feels that way. He's got to be proud of his state, but Chris McDaniel doesn't. No. Chris McDaniel said that Thad Cochran reaching out to them African Americans was a big mistake, and it just shows how he's compromising.
I guess they can take some consolation in the fact that they did something tonight by once again compromising, by once again reaching across the aisle, by once again abandoning the conservative movement.
Mm-hmm. What happened to their... By the
guy.
way, you know what? Nobody likes a bad loser.
No!
Nobody likes a bad
How many times do you see concession speeches that are, I just want to thank my candidate, my opponent for a race well run?
Right. Mm-hmm. No. Chris McDowell said, what happened to principle? No, we got him here. Yeah, I know.
I just gotta oh, here it is. Here's the other one where he went.
So much for bold colors. So much for principle.
So much for bold colors.
Such a whiny baby. Man.
So much for bold colors.
And the other big primary up in New York, New York's 13, it looks like he did it. At least Congressman, and we're talking about Charlie Rangel here, who was up, I don't know, for his, I think, 103rd term in Congress. 84 years old, served 44 years in Congress already. Gregory Meeks, Chairman Gregory Meeks, was asked by Chairman Charlie Rangel to make the announcement.
The chairman has won! The chairman has won!
And Charlie Rangel did it without the endorsement of Barack Obama. He did it without the endorsement of Bill de Blasio, mayor. He did it without the endorsement of Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton. Charlie Rangel, it looks like, and it's not over yet, looks like he's pulled it off. And Charlie Rangel says, well, the other guy, you know, he did as much as he could with what he had.
I should congratulate Adriano for doing the best with what he had to work with and having a civil campaign.
That's so great.
I love it. He did the best with what he had to work with.
That's like that old, like in the South, like, oh, he did okay. He tried his best. He, bless his heart. That's a bless his heart moment.
Exactly. Bless his heart. Yeah, I'm telling you. Oh, man. What do you think in Mississippi, the Tea Party? They're not so alive after all, are they? Is this the end of the Tea Party? 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, Wednesday morning after primary day. A couple of other primaries. Tom Tancredo, the perennial... He was Tea Party before Tea Party was cool. Out in Colorado, lost his Republican primary. And here nearby in the state of Maryland, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown beat back two challengers to become the Democratic nominee for governor, next governor for the state of Maryland. Outgoing Governor Martin O'Malley, of course, is looking at 2016 as a possible Democratic candidate for president. Big news out of Mississippi. What do you think about it all? Sherry's calling from Chicago and our great friends at WCPT in Chicago. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Bill. Enjoy your show as usual.
You're very
I'm so
kind.
happy what happened in Mississippi, and it's my way of thinking for the Conservative Party as a whole is one step forward, two steps back, which means they'll never get ahead. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like, doesn't it, Sherry? But what I find interesting is that it is true, I think, as Americans, we can celebrate the fact that a relatively a conservative and not an extremist has won in Mississippi. That's why it's also relative, because Thad Cochran is no moderate. Thad Cochran, is as conservative as you can get. And the idea that somebody more extreme than him might have won is ridiculous.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour. Wednesday morning. How about it? Hope you're feeling good this Wednesday morning. I sure am. I don't know why.
What's wrong with you?
So early in the morning.
Doesn't feel good about necessarily. I mean,
no, I feel good about a lot of stuff this morning. Great to see you this morning. The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Brought to you by the American Federation of Teachers today. Good men and women of the AFT, our Teachers of America. So grateful for the great work that they do under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference in the classrooms of America every day, you bet. And you can follow their good work at aft.org. We've been talking about the primaries yesterday. One other important one we wanted to mention. By the way, footnote on Mississippi, the Tea Party challenger down there, of course, Chris McDaniel, was supported by Sarah Palin and Rick Santorum. Just shows what their popularity is worth these days. Again,
that actually makes me pretty happy.
That does make me pretty happy, yeah. And out in Oklahoma, Sarah Palin and Rick Santorum and Ted Cruz and Senator Mike Lee, who's a Tea Partier from Utah, all supported in the Republican primary. This didn't get as much attention, but it's sort of like Mississippi. This is the Republican primary, not a runoff, for whoever was going to be the Republican candidate to replace Tom Coburn from Oklahoma, who is retiring. The Tea Party candidate was T.W. Shannon, who's Speaker of the House out in Oklahoma, Native American and African American, by the way, and Republican.
Man.
Yeah. Again, supported by Sarah Palin, Rick Santorum, Ted Cruz, and Mike Lee, and he lost to Congressman James Lankford. Now, again, it's good to see the Tea Party lose, but don't think you're getting any moderate in James Lankford. He is one of the most conservative Republicans in the House, and he sounds like a Tea Partier when he announced and when he accepted his or celebrated his victory last night.
We want to regulate our own environment. We want to run our own farms. We want to run our own small businesses. We want to help our neighbors have loans from our community banks and not have federal regulators constantly tell us no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want to run our own farms with the help of all those government subsidies.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
That's a Tea Party speech.
That's a Tea Party speech, right. And we want to run our own business with the help of all them government roads and them government cops and those government firefighters and those government subsidies and all those government small business loans. Yeah, right.
We want to let our cattle graze on government land without paying our grazing fees.
Exactly. It's such BS, but anyhow. So that's a little look at the primary situation. Hey, one other thing I wanted to mention, I'd love to get your take on this. I don't know why President Obama is going out to Minneapolis tomorrow. That's great. I love to see the president go on the road. Minneapolis, great town. He's going out to Minneapolis. We learned yesterday at our press briefing. And he's going to spend some time with Rebecca. I don't know Rebecca's last name. We will tomorrow. But Rebecca is a working mom, a single mom, hardworking single mom, who wrote she's one of the ones who wrote the president a letter. And he, the president gets thousands and thousands of letters a day. And as has been widely reported, and the president has talked about it, he gets 10 of them every day that the mailroom picks out, 10 representative letters. They go to him personally. And he reads every night, and then he makes notes on them and sends them back. What about this? What about that? Sometimes he calls these people up, which is a nice touch. Well, Rebecca had written a letter to the president, so the president is now going out to see her. And here's the deal: Josh Earnest told us at the briefing yesterday that this is not the one and only time he's going to do this. That this summer, the president is going to do a whole series of these, going out in the country, across the country, to spend a day. I'm pulling up here the notice that came out officially from the White House after our briefing yesterday, from Dan Pfeiffer, the president's, he used to be communications director. Now he's got an even bigger job at the White House, special counsel or whatever to the president. And he says what it's all about. The president is not just going to write Rebecca a response to her letter. He is meeting Rebecca in person this Thursday. He is going to spend a day in her shoes. Watch President Obama tell her story and find out why he's traveling to her town. He is going to launch, this is going to be what they call the first in a series of, quote, day in the life visits across this country this summer. A whole series of day in the life visits across the country this summer. He'll spend a whole day with Rebecca, and he'll meet with her family and community members to discuss the issues that matter to them. Starting in Minneapolis this Thursday. Tomorrow, right. Now, think about this. I don't know. Maybe I've just been around Washington too long. Maybe I'm just too skeptical. Maybe I'm just too cynical. But my question to you, does this really make sense for the President of the United States? 866-55-PRESS. First of all, I mean, when I heard this yesterday in the briefing room, I was raising my eyebrows, and all kinds of questions popped into my mind. Number one, is this really quote, spending a day in the life of Rebecca? No. No. Spending a day in the life of Rebecca would be like sleeping in our house, getting up, feeding the cat, getting the kids off to school, God knows, getting dressed for work, taking the bus to work. You can make it up yourself, right? No, he's going to be flying out on Air Force One. He's going to be surrounded by a security, which he has to. He's going to be, going to and from our house in the great big motorcade. He'll probably spend an hour with Rebecca and her family and her friends. Now, nice experience, but I don't think they can oversell it as spending a day in the life of, number one. Number two, it's hardly spending, this is the problems that I see with it. I'd love to know what you think of it at 866-55-PRESS. Again, he's hardly spending the entire day with Rebecca. Again, he's got to fly out on Air Force One and fly back on Air Force One. That's about 4 hours or so. He's got to get to our house and all that kind of stuff. But then he's also doing a town hall. Okay? How many days do you think that Rebecca has a town hall with like 300 or 400 or 500 people there taking questions on national television? And then the president also, while he is in Minneapolis, is doing a fundraiser for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. So, I mean, again, hate to be the cynic, but you have to ask, is he going to Minneapolis to see Rebecca, or is he going to Minneapolis to raise money for the DCCC? You gotta wonder about that. And the third point that comes to me is, and this is a question I had my hand raised to ask Josh Earnest yesterday, but I didn't get called on. Isn't it like a little late for this? I mean, he's been president for 6 years. Is not that there's anything wrong or illegal about this, but isn't this the kind of thing you do when you're campaigning for office? I mean, I remember candidates who will go out and they're campaigning for office, and so they'll go out and they'll work a different job every day. Former Senator Bob Graham down in Florida used to do this. At election year, for re-election, he would always take a month, and he would work when he was on congressional break, and he would work at a different job every month just to kind of get that, a different job every day for a month, right? So he would go out on a garbage truck, or he'd work in an office, or he'd work on a factory assembly line or something for one day, all these different jobs, to get this experience and to be able to talk about his running for re-election. President's not going to run for re-election. President's there for 6 years. I don't know. I know the White House is they're always figuring all kinds of ways to keep the president active and keep the president on top of the issues. A day in the life of, I don't think they thought this one through. And I think this one could end up looking a little phony. That's my worry about it. 866-55-PRESS here. We'll talk about it on the Bill Press Show. We'll ask David Jackson about it next. From the White House, covers the White House for USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour here on a Wednesday morning, June 25. A lot of action at the White House yesterday, including the president welcoming members of the President's Cup and Tiger Woods to the White House yesterday afternoon. That keeps a guy like David Jackson hopping all the time with so much going on. It covers the White House for USA Today. Joins us on our newsline again this morning. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Bill.
I was a little worried yesterday when I heard the commotion, somebody falling and hitting the floor at the briefing, a person fainting at the end of the briefing. I was afraid it might have been you, David.
Oh, no, I was sitting down, so I was in good shape. But, yeah, it's sometimes the people who have to stand that it can get to you after a while. I was just glad she didn't hit one of the chairs.
Yeah, no. It was a young woman who was an intern, her first day on the job as an intern, and they brought him into the briefing just to get a taste of the briefing. I felt so sorry for her.
Yeah, I know. I felt bad for her, too.
And I noticed, I'm sure, every news site I've seen, everybody wrote a story about a person faints at the briefing. Right?
Yeah, the definition of news has changed quite a bit in our time, Bill, I'm afraid.
That's the last. I'm sure it's the last thing that she or her family wanted, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they replayed it on one of the early morning TV shows today, I noticed, too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I feel very strange, I think.
Well, it was one way to end a briefing. Anyway. So the president's still not out of the woods on Iraq, right?
No, not at all. And it gets more complicated. There were rumors yesterday that it had been an attack, a bombing of ISIL forces. So the rumors were the U.S. was involved.
Oh.
Pentagon had to deny it, but it turns out Syria has attacked them yesterday. So now the Syrian government's getting involved in this. It's a very complex and very dangerous situation.
Well, they're a threat to Syria as well if they form this caliphate, and they've taken over the border posts and. Yeah,
they're in possession of large swaths of northern Syria too. So it's a Syria and Iraq cross-border situation.
I think to me the most interesting juggling that we've seen on the part of Jay Carney and now Josh Earnest and John Kerry and everybody and the president is about al-Maliki. Do they trust him or not? I mean, it seems they're trying to ease him out without publicly doing so.
That seems to be the impression. I'm sure they'd love to see him go, but they don't want to come out forcefully and then force him out either, because we don't have a really good track record of doing that either. So I think they're kind of betwixt and between on it. But yeah, I think they'd like to see Al-Maliki out, but I think they know they're going to have to deal with him. So I think at this point they're just trying to hope that he includes a more diverse or a more diverse government.
And the question is whether there's enough time, right? Whether for Al-Maliki or somebody else to form a more unified government before the ISIS takes over.
Exactly. No, exactly. They were hoping to get a new government in place by July, which I guess is next week. But I don't know if they're going to make that deadline or not. And although the militant forces seem to have stopped maybe about 40 miles from Baghdad.
Yeah,
so it seems like they've got a little bit of breathing space now, but I don't think that's going to last.
Yeah. It's surprising that they've stopped there. I expected them to continue that push, but they seem to have, for some reason, come that far and not proceed any further. Now, David, again, we're talking about David Jackson, USA Today, covers the White House correspondent for USA Today at usatoday.com. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of questions yesterday about this new plan that Josh Earnest announced, and Dan Pfeiffer put out an announcement about it too, called A Day in the Life of.
Right.
And it starts tomorrow in Minneapolis. What are they trying to do here?
Oh, they're trying to get him out and meet real people. Periodically they have these little. Remember the jobs tour that the president had a couple years ago? It's the same kind of theme. In this case, the president has long said he reads 10 letters a day from everyday Americans because it helps him keep in touch with what's going on out there. So now they're going to select one letter writer, every several weeks and go visit that person and talk to them about the things they've written about and try to learn about their community. And it starts later this week in Minnesota. He's going to Minnesota tomorrow. Yeah. Talk to a woman who wrote to him about the high cost of living and the high cost of child care, and he's going to talk to her neighbors, and give a speech about the economy. It's just a device, if you will, to get the president and get him beyond the bubble, if you will, and try and have him meet real people.
Mm-hmm. What I found a little stretch is that he's going to spend, quote, and that's what they're calling it, a day in the life of Rebecca.
Yeah. Well,
hardly.
That's about that. I don't
hardly,
know.
Right? I mean,
I don't know. Of course, you remember some politicians go have a work days. They go home work a real job.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe it's a variation of that, but it's very. If you're president, it's very hard to relate to any average person and walk around in their shoes.
Right, and then he just so happens to be doing a fundraiser for the DCCC. Again, I hate
the first event put on the schedule for Minnesota. So basically, they started with the fundraiser and built a schedule around that. So it's.
I hate to be the cynic, but that's the way I see it. No.
Well, it's just a theme, a device. Yeah. I mean, I think you will see him do more and give letter writers. It's just a way to get him out in the country and get a little publicity, especially publicity in local markets. And
right. So. Now, do you think what's the president going to be doing today between 12 and 2?
Well, today or tomorrow?
Oh, I'm sorry, tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Well, I've got to see the schedule, but I'm sure he's going to find out he's either going to be in Minnesota or he's going to be en route. But I'm sure he's going to find a television set somewhere to watch U.S. and Germany.
He's got to find a way for that, don't you think?
The President of the United States must watch that game. I don't care everything else aside. He's got to watch that game.
Yeah. Well, originally, earlier in the week, I had figured that he was going to be in flight so he could watch it on Air Force One. That'd be the easiest thing to do. But they've added so many events to that Minnesota schedule, he may have to leave earlier than that. So I don't know how he's going to do. He will definitely. He mentioned last night during the golf. They had both the U.S. and the international golf teams at the White House last night. And he was making a little fun of the international team, and also talked about he hoped that the U.S. would beat Germany in World Cup soccer. So he's definitely mentioning it. I suspect we'll hear more about it today. So I'm sure he's going to be in a position to check it out.
They'll find a way. I mean, you talk about optics, right? That would be. That he's got to be doing that. He's got to be watching that game.
He's got to be doing that and making plans to talk to Merkel afterwards, since they've got to talk about Ukraine and Iraq anyway, so they might as well call each other after the World Cup.
No, there you go, right. Maybe he'll swing by some bar, in Minneapolis.
Well, that's a definite possibility, too. No doubt about it. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people watching there. So
yeah. Well, David, we won't have a briefing tomorrow, so you know where you and I are going to be.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm going to be in the TV booth watching the live feed, no doubt.
You got it. All right. Talk to you a little bit later.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Hey, thanks, David. David Jackson, usatoday.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Guys joke about man boobs, but it's not.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, in the next hour, Congressman Chris Van Hollen from the state of Maryland, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, will be here, as well as Jessica Taylor from The Hill to take a look at yesterday's primaries. What do you got, Peter?
Yeah, just a quick story from New York. Congratulations to Congressman Sean Maloney. He is married now. He is New York's first openly gay member of Congress. He tied the knot over the weekend with his longtime partner, been with his partner for 22 years, and they have 3 children together.
Right.
So congratulations.
And, he is the second congressman to get married as a member of Congress.
That's right.
Barney Frank was the first. And, of course, Mark Pocan from Wisconsin is also a same-sex marriage, but they were married before he was elected to the Congress. Yes, when we come back, we'll take a look at yesterday's big primaries with Jessica Taylor from The Hill, top of the next hour.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, good morning, my fellow Americans. It's a very busy day here on this Wednesday, June 25. Good to have you with us on the Bill Press Show as we tackle all the big stories of the day here in Washington, D.C., all around the country, all around the globe. Nothing escapes us. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. Or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, on the political front, several important primaries yesterday in Mississippi. He did it. Thad Cochran, incumbent Republican senator, beat back Tea Party challenger Chris McDaniel. That's too bad. We were hoping the Tea Party guy could win so Democrats could crush him and bring Mississippi back into the Democratic column. It's going to be a lot tougher with Thad Cochran winning the primary. In Maryland, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown will be the Democratic nominee for governor. Good man. In New York's 13th congressional district, it looks like Charlie Rangel has held on for yet another term in the United States Congress. And out in Colorado, the perennial candidate Tom Tancredo has lost again in the Republican primary for governor. Former President Bill Clinton says Hillary was right. They were broke. We were broke, says Bill Clinton. Plus, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Yes, and Republicans here in Washington are still trying to prove a big conspiracy theory about the IRS. They've been at it for 2 years. They haven't found anything yet, but that doesn't mean that Darrell Issa will stop trying. That's just part of the stories we'll be covering this morning here on the Bill Press Show. Lots of good reasons for hanging around for all 3 hours. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, somebody fainted at the White House briefing yesterday, and it was not me. Just so you know. I know you're all worried about it. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, June 25. Great to see you today. This is the Bill Press Show. That's me. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital. This is our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., just down the street from the United States Capitol building. But most of the news, the political news this morning is not from Washington, D.C. It's from different primaries around the world. That's where we start off here at the top of this hour. Lots to talk about on the national political scene. On the Washington scene, at what's happening around the country and around the globe. We'll tell you all about it and, of course, give you a chance to tell us what you think about what's going on. That's our conversation every morning here on your local Progressive Talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and on our worldwide video stream at youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKR-TV. Here in the studio with us, Jessica Taylor covers campaigns, covers politics for The Hill, a great newspaper here on Capitol Hill, thehill.com. She's been up almost all night and just ends her long political day by coming in this morning. Hi, Jessica.
Good morning. I got a brief 2-hour nap there and coffee, and we're ready to go again.
Jessica gets the Spirit Award, without a doubt. She gets the Spirit Award.
Absolutely. Peter Ogburn here this morning, leading our team. Elisa Murphy's got the day off. Hello, Peter.
Hey, hey, hey.
There's Alicia Cruz, ready to take your calls. Don't forget, you can join us anytime by phone at 866-55-PRESS. You can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And if we're looking good on the video stream on Free Speech TV, it's thanks to our videographers Cyprian Bolding and Monty Kensler, both on the job this morning. So, in this business, Jessica, sometimes it's important to, as an anchor, right, just slow down once in a while. If you're changing subjects, it's sort of like you have to put a comma in or a pause in between. There's one BBC anchor yesterday, back from some break, he'd been away for a while, who shows how the dangers of not pausing and not letting your viewers know that you're sort of separating things that you say. Here's what he sounded like yesterday.
This is BBC World News. I'm Jonathan Charles, kept hidden for almost 2 decades and forced to bear children.
Okay, so...
Yeah, kept hidden for almost 2 decades and forced to bear children. I am Jonathan.
You need to take a breath. You need to take a breath.
Take a breath, right. Yeah, a little comma here. I have to say a funny story. When Tucker and I were doing the show The Spin Room, Tucker Carlson and I, on CNN, there was a bill in Congress that had no other purpose than to add a comma that was missing in the law when it previously passed. So they put another bill in just to amend it by adding a comma. And Tucker and I laughed about that and thought it was so silly and such a waste of taxpayer dollars just to put this comma in. And a man wrote us, I'll never forget this, an email saying, Bill and Tucker, this is to show you the importance of a comma. Look at the next 2 sentences. And the first one was, go ahead, shoot, comma, Bill and Tucker. And the next one was, go ahead, Shoot Bill and Tucker.
Proper grammar and punctuation is important.
It's very important. I learned it. That made the case for me, indeed. So we'll take a look at the primaries with Jessica Taylor here at the top of the hour. Congressman Chris Van Hollen, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, in studio with us at the half hour. And then the next hour, Chris Anders from the ACLU to take a look at that Justice Department memo saying it's okay to use drones to kill Americans overseas. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Ryan Seacrest signed a new deal that puts him on all 4 of the American television major networks. He signed a deal with NBC to produce new content for them. He also signed a separate deal with CBS to host and executive produce a live special called Fashion Rocks. He already has a deal with Fox for American Idol, and he has a deal with ABC to host New Year's Rockin' Eve. That puts him on CBS, NBC, ABC, and Fox.
Whoa.
Domination.
Has anybody else ever done that?
That has never happened before.
He can't be that good.
You know how I feel about Ryan Seacrest. I don't think he's very good, right. But clearly he's got something that people want to watch him that much.
Yeah, he's bringing the numbers in, or they wouldn't be, signing him up. Wow.
Yeah. Yesterday, Warby Parker, the eyeglass company, announced that they have now sold 1 million pairs of glasses online, which means 1 million people also got glasses that needed them. That's their deal on Warby Parker. If you order a pair of glasses from them, they donate a pair of glasses to someone in need. So not only have they sold 1 million pairs of glasses, they have given away a million pairs of glasses. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, good for them.
And I love Warby. I'm wearing Warby Parkers right now. I love Warby Parkers. Great company. It's not getting paid for it. I just have to point that out.
All right. Maybe we... if they're not a new sponsor of the show by tomorrow, you are not doing your job.
I know, I'm telling you, man. And Los Angeles sees the opening of its first Choco Chicken restaurant this week. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is a fried chicken restaurant that serves fried chicken covered in chocolate. It's not covered in like a chocolate sauce, but it's dusted in cocoa powder. The batter has been infused with chocolate. They use chocolate oil to fry the chicken in. They serve it with white chocolate mashed potatoes. And they look at Bill. Look at your face. I wish you could see Bill's face right now.
Just don't come together here.
Well, this is from the people who put together Umami Burger, which is a very popular chain in California. It's the same guy that started that. They have chocolate ketchup. He says that it just makes sense. But I haven't had it. I can't imagine that I will ever have it.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me, no.
It sounds great to me. I mean, I'm from the South. 2 of my favorite things are chocolate and chicken, fried chicken. So
I love fried chicken. I love chocolate.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah. But
what do they call it?
Choco chicken. Choco chicken.
Okay.
Give it a shot.
Next time I'm in
you're in LA.
Home state, my golden state, we'll have to try it out. Jessica, I guess we have to start in Mississippi because that was the most watched of the primaries yesterday. It wasn't a primary, it was a runoff, actually, right?
Right, exactly. 3 weeks ago, we had the first round of voting, and Chris McDaniel, the Tea Party challenger to longtime incumbent Senator Thad Cochran, certainly had the momentum. He finished ahead of the senator. It seemed like it was inevitable that he was going to topple Cochran, but that was sort of the shock of the night. I think all of us were ready to sort of write Cochran's political obituary. I mean, who would have thought 2 weeks ago that we would be talking about Cochran heading back to the Senate, but that Eric Cantor will not be a member next year? I think it's been definitely sort of a topsy-turvy month.
Well, the nice thing to say about Chris McDaniel is that, Peter, if we have that right, he was so gracious in his concession speech. He recognized that Thad Cochran did a great job, and I guess maybe he wasn't so gracious. Here he was.
I guess they can take some consolation in the fact that they did something tonight by once again compromising, by once again reaching across the aisle, by once again abandoning the conservative movement.
Yeah, he went down. He was bitter and angry. Huh?
This was not a concession speech at all, and I would not anticipate hearing one from him for quite some time, if at all. I think how Cochran managed to sort of expand his vote was they were reaching out to Democrats. They were reaching out to Cochran, exactly, to African American voters, saying, here's what I've done for the state. Here's the money I've brought back. Here's how my seniority helps you. And they knew that if they were looking simply at a Republican primary electorate like they did 3 weeks ago, they were going to be at a disadvantage. So they had to find a way to expand the vote. And this really angered McDaniel supporters. And, Mississippi, it's certainly a history of some voting problems and racial inequality. You had McDaniel supporters saying they were going to be watching the polls and things too, which is just ripe for controversy in a place like Mississippi, especially. And, you kind of felt a little bit of that in the speech last night. And, it's one that I think is going to be interesting to watch in the coming weeks. Now, if you head to our website, thehill.com, our reporter Alexandra Jaffe has a really great story up there, what she was hearing last night from some of McDaniel's folks. What it sounded to me, he sort of made a reference like this isn't over yet and things too. I think we could even see some legal challenges from them coming down there. And one of the counties specifically that they're looking at is Hinds County. It's Jackson. It is a heavily African American primary. Cochran saw an 8,000 vote spike there from what he what he had 3 weeks ago, and that certainly made up the 6,800 vote difference. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see specifically, I think, McDaniel's campaign taking a look at those specific numbers and see if they have any sort of legal recourse to challenge this, to if there were traditionally Democratic voters that pulled a Republican primary ballot.
Interesting, too, that McDaniel was supported by Sarah Palin and by Rick Santorum. I mean, they really thought, and the narrative 3 weeks ago, which all of us were writing and talking about, was this proves the Tea Party is still very much alive, right? Right. And he had a support from every major national group, and it wasn't just sort of the ones that, take a chance on people. Senate Conservatives Fund, they endorsed in Kentucky, even some candidates that weren't going to make it through. But, Club for Growth is one, very fiscally conservative. They really sort of take a very different approach to their candidates. They will not endorse in a race unless they really think the candidate can win and that they have a legitimate shot in the election. They really want to keep their reputation intact there. And this is one where they went really big in and really thought, that they were going to pull out a victory. But what this does, I think, too, Cochran, we expect his win to stand. Democrats, I think this is why you saw a little bit of controversy over whether Democrats would play in Cochran's race or anything too, because national Democrats were hoping that McDaniel would make it through. Oh, yeah. He has a history of, some controversial comments on his own radio show. He might have run a better campaign and even beat Cochran if he had maybe his own supporters kind of under control. You had bloggers and some campaign supporters breaking in to film Cochran's infirm wife earlier. Last primary, you had some of his supporters that were mysteriously locked in one of the precincts and stuff too, where the voting ballots were. I mean, this was just a comedy of errors down there. I mean, if anything could go wrong or weird at a primary in a race, it happened in Mississippi. That was sort of reflected also in Oklahoma, just bouncing to Oklahoma. There's the Republican primary to see who would be the nominee to replace Senator Tom Coburn. Again, an establishment Republican, hardly a moderate. I mean, Jim Lankford, but not conservative enough for the Tea Party. So he had a Tea Party challenge, and T.W. Shannon, right? And there again, Sarah Palin, Rick Santorum, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, they all came in and endorsed the Tea Party challenger, and people thought that he was actually going to beat the establishment Republican. Again, Lankford won last night.
Right, he did, and he won outright. I think some of us were expecting a third candidate that maybe could have kept him under 50%. That was what Shannon was hoping for. And no one I was talking to heading into Election Day thought that Shannon was going to finish first. They just needed to hold Lankford under 50%, head to an August runoff where they thought that they might be able to sort of leapfrog him there. And Lankford, he's no moderate. Yeah, exactly. He's very conservative, but his sort of cardinal sin was that he was a member of House leadership. He worked with House leadership. I mean, this was just, the scarlet A on his chest, really.
Sort of like the Eric Cantor problem.
Exactly. So I think that was one of his biggest problems he had to overcome. But when I was talking with some people on the ground in Oklahoma, Shannon had this national Tea Party support. This is where I think we see a divide between national Tea Party support and local Tea Party support. A lot of the local Oklahoma-based Tea Party groups were really upset sort of by this national meddling. They actually supported Lankford.
Oh.
And Lankford, before he came to Congress, he was elected in 2010. He was director of the largest Baptist church camp there. This is a vast network there in Oklahoma, especially of Southern Baptist churches.
Yeah.
And I think that was one thing that certainly helped him mobilize voters to go to the polls. One interesting thing about Shannon, if he'd have won, he would have been the second African-American Republican in the Senate. Some people, I think that's one reason why you saw some people endorsing him. He would have been a way to sort of grow the face of the party. But it's Lankford who is going to be heading there.
So in Oklahoma, Peter, the Tea Party candidate lost. The establishment Republican, Lankford, gives his acceptance speech last night. Tell me he doesn't sound like a Tea Party member. Here's Jim Lankford, who beat the Tea Party guy.
Mm-hmm. We want to regulate our own environment. We want to run our own farms. We want to run our own small businesses. We want to help our neighbors have loans from our community banks and not have federal regulators constantly tell us no.
Just to drive home the point, he's no moderate Republican.
Yeah, I mean, I think, right. So, he's
just like
he's going to go
Eric Cantor
there.
was no moderate, and Thad Cochran is no moderate.
Yeah, if you even work with Democrats on anything, or if you're seen as part of leadership, part of the establishment, that's sort of the cardinal sin that the Tea Party will try to use against you, and that's what happened. But they were unsuccessful there in both of these races.
And Charlie Rangel up in New York. He looks like Charlie Rangel survived and going for, I think, his 23rd term in Congress. We'll get into that and a whole lot more with Jessica Taylor here when we come back. You're always welcome to join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Is the Bill Press Show.
And that is Congressman Gregory Meeks announcing that Congressman Charlie Rangel won his primary for re-election to the Congress. Jessica Taylor's here from The Hill. Do we know for a fact that Rangel won?
The Associated Press has not called this. Rangel's ahead by just over 2,000 votes. And one of the reasons they haven't officially called this and why his challenger, Dominican Adriano Espaillat, is sort of hopeful and was refusing to concede last night is because he only won last time by over 1,000 votes, again, in against with Espaillat. And there's thousands of outstanding absentee ballots and provisional ballots still out, and this is what really cut the lead down last time. So the Espaillat camp is still waiting to see if that comes in, but I know Rangel's folks are very confident, and I think that Espaillat's folks are certainly less confident than they seemed to be 2 years ago. But it looks like Rangel has held on. He's already said this is going to be his last term, so Espaillat certainly laying the building blocks maybe for an open seat primary in 2016 now.
What I find interesting is that Charlie Rangel won without the endorsement of Barack Obama.
He did, but he had Bill Clinton calling for him with robocalls in the race. He really did get African Americans to turn out there. It's very interesting. African Americans helped not only elect Charlie Rangel in Harlem, but Thad Cochran in Mississippi last night too.
That is interesting. Yeah.
They're so much alike.
Well, maybe Charlie and Thad Cochran could work together on some stuff.
Maybe they can have a dance party.
You got it. Hey, Jessica, great work. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's thehill.com. We'll be back with Congressman Chris Van Hollen.
Is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000.
you'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now here on a Wednesday morning, June 25. It is the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live from our nation's capital. Brought to you this morning by, among others, the NEA, the good men and women, our Teachers of America of the National Education Association under President Dennis Van Rokel. Making a difference in the classrooms of America every day, you bet. And their website, you can find out more about their good work at NEA.org. A big day on the political front yesterday, including a big primary in the state of Maryland, representing the 8th District of the state of Maryland, the ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, good friend of the program, Congressman Chris Van Hollen, back in the studio with us again this morning. Thank you so much, Congressman. Good to see you.
Good to see you this morning, Bill.
About a big day we have lots to talk about on the congressional front, but first a little on the politics. Big day in Maryland yesterday.
It was. We were all up late watching some of the returns in the local races, but some of the
big statewide races were actually decided fairly early. Not a lot of surprises in the governor's race. Anthony Brown won comfortably. In the attorney general's race, Brian Frosch came from behind to beat John Cardin, and that was a race a lot of people had been watching.
And it turned out to be just about a 20% margin.
Yes, in the
I
end,
didn't realize he had come from behind.
He had John Cardin has the Cardin family name, Ben Cardin's nephew, and going in, therefore, had higher name recognition when they started out. But Brian Frosch...
Who is Brian Frosch?
He's a state legislature, served in the Maryland House of Delegates and the state Senate. A person of the highest integrity, has gotten a lot done. He's been a very effective legislator on gun safety issues, on issues like the Maryland version of the DREAM Act, a whole host of issues related to providing greater justice in the state of Maryland. So from my perspective, that was a good and important win.
And Anthony Brown will be the next governor of Maryland, right?
He will. I mean, he's going to face Larry Hogan, who's the Republican candidate, the son of a former Republican member of Congress. And Larry Hogan will, present himself as a moderate in the race, sort of trying to take from the playbook of Bobby Ehrlich, who was, one of the few Republican governors in Maryland in recent times. And so, no one should be taking anything for granted.
Right. Now, also, new little...
and I should say I have to thank the voters in my primary for my
that's
reelection.
right. Of course you were.
I had a couple of folks who filed as well, and I
but
appreciate this continued support from my constituents.
All right. Well, we're glad you're on your way back to another important term here in the Congress, because we need your leadership there. Little change on Capitol Hill, too, with Eric Cantor getting bounced out of his primary. Now we have a new majority leader in Kevin McCarthy from my state of California. What difference in the management of the House or the ability to get things done will Kevin McCarthy make in the House? Any at all?
Well, I think what you're seeing is this continued move of the House Republican caucus toward the far right and the Tea Party. I'm not saying that Kevin McCarthy necessarily has that disposition, but he is being pressed by his caucus. And even after yesterday's results, where you did see a lot of the establishment Republicans eke out victories in the end, Thad Cochran in Mississippi being an example.
Langford in Oklahoma.
That's right. But even though the Republican establishment candidates are winning and eking out some of these battles, the fact of the matter is the Tea Party's winning the war, because they're driving Republicans in the House farther and farther to the right. You saw this recently when Kevin McCarthy and then I understand the Speaker have come out against the Export-Import Bank, which has been an institution to support the export of American products, American goods.
And to help companies to sell their products overseas, give them the financing to do it.
That's exactly right. And they've been actually making a profit. I mean, this has not been a cost to the taxpayer, but it's been a huge benefit to American workers and manufacturers because it helps export these goods, and yet they've been targeted by the House Republican leadership.
Now, I don't understand. I mean, I just did yesterday I did a little research on this. So the Export-Import Bank has been around since 1934. Its charter's been renewed by Republicans and Democrats ever since. Ronald Reagan was a huge supporter of it. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, and 834 different companies have come out and said, we need this Export-Import Bank for American businesses, for jobs, for being able to sell our products. What's the Republican Party have against it, or what's the Tea Party have against it?
Well, they see this as a quasi-government institution, and it is a quasi-government institution. But this just goes to show how far their absolute hatred of anything governmental is, because this is a great example of an institution, again, the Export-Import Bank designed. This is not some high-flying Wall Street bank. This is an institution designed to help American manufacturers export goods, which helps American workers.
That's all they do.
That's what they do. That's what they're in business for. And they're not making a profits. They are at least they're running even. In other words, they're not losing the taxpayer money, but they are contributing to huge gains in our exports and our ability to sustain manufacturing in the United States. So this is a perfect example of ideology run amok, And I think the business community is getting a little bit of a wake-up call because they've been thinking that Republicans are their friends on everything, and it just turns out that ideology is trumping pragmatism.
I find it a strange place for Kevin McCarthy to take his first stand because, again, this is so business-friendly, so kind of classic Republican, if you will.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the price he paid to keep Jeb Hensarling out. I mean, I don't want to speculate on all this, but of course, Jeb Hensarling from Texas is the Republican chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, who has been targeting the Export-Import Bank for a long time. He, of course, didn't get into the race. So I don't know all that went on, but I guess the bottom line is what we can look at. And the bottom line is they're targeting an important
Now, one thing the Republicans and Democrats also always used to be able to work together on, and there was very little controversy, was the Highway Trust Fund.
Yes.
Okay. Now, that is coming back up now.
Yes.
And where is it, and what are the chances, and what are the...
Now, this is a really important issue, Bill, because the Highway Trust Fund is about to go insolvent, meaning that the revenues coming in from the federal gas tax are not sufficient to support just the ongoing program, right? I mean, we should be boosting our investments in our national infrastructure, our roads and bridges.
We
need to be modernizing this.
Right.
What we're talking about is not sufficient funds just to maintain the current program. And so we've proposed in the House, a number of us, Sandy Levin and others, a bill that would accomplish two important objectives at once. We would fund the Transportation Trust Fund, and we would do it by shutting down these conversions of U.S. corporations to foreign corporations. What you're seeing right now is American companies using tax devices to shed their American citizenship and file papers converting to foreign ownership in order to escape their obligations to the United States and to American taxpayers. And we're proposing to prevent those kind of tax scams. And by doing that, we are able to raise enough revenue to at least fund the transportation requirements for another 18 months. You see a lot of other proposals scrambling to come up with a stopgap measure for 4, 5, 6 months. We believe we're all better off if we have a little more predictability. And as I say, accomplish this other objective, which is to stop American jobs and capital from flowing overseas.
And how much money are we talking about?
That raises about $20 billion over 10 years. And I think that's an important number for people to understand, because what it means is that the Joint Tax Committee, which are the nonpartisan tax pros, project that we will see more and more American corporations deserting American taxpayers unless we take this action. Because what they're saying is by taking this action, we will save the taxpayer $20 billion, which we can then invest in jobs right here at home.
So this is the proposal in yet, or is this something you plan to introduce?
We're putting the final touches on the actual legislation, but we have certainly put the idea out there. Sandy Levin has had this bill to deal with these what are called inversions. Just to give you an idea, so this is when a company, like an American company in this case, is a big fish, and then swallows the little fish, and then takes on the corporate and foreign identity of the little fish.
Little fish being a foreign company.
Right? So a big American company swallows a little foreign company, but then takes on the foreign flag, okay, and says, I am now, it could be a Cayman Islands company, but it could be any other company. And therefore, I don't have to pay American taxes because now I'm the foreign flagged corporation. So deserting the American taxpayer despite all the benefits that these companies have gained by being in the United States. And so what we would say is if the U.S. corporation represents more than 50% of this transaction, then we're going to consider them an American company.
So it seems to me you're offering, in putting in front of the members of Congress, a pretty clear choice, right, about who do you stand for?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, are you going to stand for investing in our infrastructure and preventing American companies from totally gaming the tax system and deserting their obligations to this country, and using those revenues to invest in American jobs. Because if we don't, I will tell you, we're already seeing a slowdown in construction projects around the country because states are very nervous that the federal government's not going to come through with its contribution,
its share,
because as I say, we're running short, and it's happening now.
And if as we all know, using our nation's highways and transportation systems and everything and bridges badly in need of maintenance and improvements. It all hinges on this Highway Trust Fund. Congressman Chris Van Hollen here. We're in the leadership on these issues. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. At the top of the next hour, Chris Anders is Senior Legislative Counsel for the ACLU. He will be here in studio to talk about tell us about the memo released by the Justice Department this week, which lays out the justification for the use of drones as to kill American citizens suspected of terrorist activities overseas. That just released this week. Right now we're visiting with Congressman Chris Van Hollen some of the issues of the day impacting the Congress and talking about particularly a new proposal Congressman Chris Van Hollen and Congressman Sandy Levin and others are putting forth on the Highway Trust Fund to fund it for the next,
well, this would do at least 18 more months.
18 more months.
Compared to some other proposals, which are, just Band-Aids for 5-6 months. So, for example, the House Republicans proposed that we fund the Transportation Trust Fund for another 10, 11 months by permanently ending Saturday mail delivery. So ending postal delivery on Saturdays permanently. That was their plan. And, that there are lots of problems with that plan, but it's obviously not a long-term solution, and it's one that's based on, preventing people from getting their Saturday mail service. Whereas what we're proposing actually raises the money for the trust fund by accomplishing this other goal, which is to discourage American companies from fleeing their obligations to the country.
It really is outrageous when you think about it. These companies who have taken advantage of all the opportunities here in the United States and all the support of American consumers and the perks that they get from being an American company in terms of subsidies and transportation, access, all that kind of stuff, access to markets. And they build up and they become a hugely successful company making tons of money, and they owe little taxes, but instead of paying their taxes, now they want to abandon the United States from a citizenship point of view, if you will, and become, in effect, a foreign company so they don't have to pay taxes.
That's exactly what's going on, Bill.
Yeah.
They want to file a piece of paper shedding their American citizenship simply to avoid their tax obligations. And you mentioned the many benefits they've had. One of their benefits is what used to be a very good American infrastructure, right? They land on American airports, ship their goods over American roads.
Yeah.
And so what we're saying is, okay, we're not going to let you use these tax scams to escape your obligations to American taxpayers, and we need that revenue that is owed to the American people to improve the infrastructure, which you as corporations benefit from now and will continue to benefit, right? Just because you plant your flag overseas doesn't mean you're not continuing your operations in the United States.
Now, hearing you talk about this, I kept thinking about it. I've just been reading about this. And so during the break, as we talked, it was the case, the most recent that I remember reading about was Pfizer, American company, hugely successful, maybe because of one particular drug that they make, and trying to buy AstraZeneca, which is a British firm, also located here, but a British firm. And the reason, Pfizer was pretty upfront that the reason they wanted to do that, number one, was to avoid paying American taxes.
That's one of the that's sort of the biggest blockbuster example. But this is now going on a regular basis. And as I said, the nonpartisan tax folks are assessing that unless we pass this legislation that we're talking about, that Sandy Levin's introduced, unless we pass this, you're going to see an acceleration of this effort. More and more American companies trying to use this tax device, again, to shed their responsibilities. And that's why they estimate that by preventing this tax scam, we will essentially keep about $20 billion that we would otherwise lose over the next 10 years because of companies that are gaming the system in this way.
Yeah. I mean, this is the same thing as on a larger scale of individuals, like a Mitt Romney, right, parking his money in the Cayman Islands so he doesn't have to pay taxes on it.
No, this is very similar. A good analogy. You're just taking your money and you're filing a piece of paper saying, despite the fact that I've gained these huge benefits from being an American corporation, I'm now going to file as a foreign corporation just to escape paying my taxes to the American people and supporting our national infrastructure and things like that. So I really hope our Republican colleagues will get on board, because I wouldn't want to explain to my constituents why I was voting against something to put an end to a tax scam where American corporations were playing these games at the expense of the American taxpayer and at the expense of our national infrastructure.
No, I think it's pretty clear. You're giving them a choice, Congressman. Who do you stand for, the United States or the tax cheaters? Good work on that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in today. Congratulations again on your big primary
Thank
win
you,
yesterday.
Bill. Thanks for all your coverage of all these issues.
Make sure you're here for another 2 years, right? And I'll be back and tell you what President Obama's got on his schedule today. Be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, here we go. Hour number 3 coming up, and here we go. It's the old bad news, good news story again, right? The bad news is we're going to lose you on Free Speech TV. That's their choice, not ours. Too bad. But you've got an alternative. Talker TV. Move over to our video stream, youtube.com/talker, TAWKR TV. For Chris Anders from the ACLU talking about the drone legal justification memo, and funeral director Louis Charbonnet from New Orleans about what he's up to. Stay tuned. Hour number 3.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama, busy day, including a meeting with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and then a meeting and a working lunch with President Shimon Peres of Israel. This afternoon, the president will also be welcoming to the White House Jimmy Johnson and the Hendrick Motorsports team. Oh, he loves doing that at the White House. They had the golfers in yesterday. Today it's the motorsports team. Then he'll be meeting with all the Senate Democrats at the White House at 5 o'clock this evening. And at 7 o'clock, he'll be speaking to the big fundraising dinner for the League of Conservation Voters. Our briefing with Josh Earnest is at 12:45 today, and I'll try not to faint.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
James West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We are still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the back that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, there was a big fainting at the White House briefing yesterday, but worry not, fear not. I'm not the one who fainted. Right. I'm strong for those briefings. I last all the way through. Good morning, everybody. It was a White House intern, her first day on the job. Poor soul. And now they've been replaying the video of her fainting all over the cable news this morning. It is a Wednesday morning, June 25. This is the Bill Press Show. And we welcome you to the program on your local progressive talk radio station. Anywhere in this great land of ours, we welcome you on the TuneIn app. If you haven't downloaded it, do it today. It's free. Then you can find us wherever you are on the Progressive Voices channel on the TuneIn app. Good to see you on our video stream worldwide at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. It has been anticipated for a long time, and finally we got to see this week the Justice Department, well, most of it's heavily redacted, but we got to see a good part of the Justice Department's legal memo that it had prepared for President Obama, which justified the use of drones to kill Americans overseas. Did they make a strong case? Chris Andrews is here from the ACLU, Senior Legislative Counsel, to tell us all about it. Hello, Chris. Good to see you again.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And a neighbor on Capitol Hill. We always add that. But we have the Hill Tribe that we try to bring into in the studio as often as we can. Elisa Murphy's got a few days off here, so Peter Ogburn is sitting at that over there.
I'm over here.
Running the board and doing the full court and making coffee and I don't know. What else?
Anything else you need, sir.
Running the vacuum cleaner.
Happy to help. Whatever you need. Need some breakfast?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Damn it.
Alicia Cruz is there with the phones to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And double teaming on the video stream this morning. That's why we're looking so good. Looking twice as good as always because we have not only Cyprian Bolding but Monty Kanzler in this morning on the cameras and on the lights. Chris, you remember it was just a month or so ago, maybe a little more, that the Methodist Church expelled Pastor Frank Schaefer as a Methodist pastor because he had performed a same-sex marriage for his son and his partner and his son's partner. And the pastor said, I mean, he's my son. You know, how can I refuse him? Well, the Methodist Church said, too bad, buddy. We don't accept this. You are out as a pastor. They got so much feedback and flack from fellow Methodists that yesterday the Methodist Church reversed itself and reinstated Pastor Frank Schaeffer. And then he was asked, would you perform any more same-sex marriages? Here he is.
If the question is asked, Pastor Frank, will you perform gay weddings again? The answer is absolutely. I already went on record that I will not discriminate against anybody.
Yeah, good for him. You know, it's a real split, I guess, within the Methodist Church dealing with this issue.
Yep. Courageous stand by him.
I think so as well. And I read this morning he's been given a new assignment at, I don't know whether it's the University of Santa Barbara, but at a university in Santa Barbara, California. Well, he'll be a campus minister there. Mm-hmm. In which position he may have an opportunity to perform several.
A nice place to be,
and a great place to be. Great town indeed. So, Pastor Frank Schaeffer. So Chris Andrews here for the first half hour, and then we will be joined at the half by a funeral director from New Orleans, Louis Charbonnet, who has he's in the news this week because one of the things that he is doing is he's been working with families to allow people's bodies to be seen at wakes, not just lying in a coffin, but depends on what the family wants. And there was a picture in the New York Times of a woman sitting at her kitchen table with a beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other and wearing sunglasses. She was dead. But that's the way her family wanted to see her in that thing. So we'll find out from he's not a pastor, no. Louis Charbonnet, funeral director, how that's going down there. And first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories. Making news. A couple of weeks ago, we told you the story about Harrison Ford, how he injured himself, his leg, on the set of the new Star Wars movie. Well, we have found out that it is such a serious injury that they are having to rewrite the script to get him out of some of the bigger scenes in the movie. He's still going to be in it, but he's not going to be playing as big of a role. We found out yesterday that...
That's why they have doubles. That's why they have stuntmen.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, we have CGI these days. The computers can make a Harrison Ford. Wouldn't be that hard. Well, we found out that Oscar Isaac, who is one of the actors in the movie, is going to have a more expanded role in the film. So that's going to be one of the ways that they're going to compensate for the loss of
he's all right.
Harrison Ford. He's okay. He's talked about it a little bit. He has a serious leg injury, so serious that you'd be able to tell if he was filming. So. Yesterday in the World Cup, it was Uruguay versus Italy, and Uruguay eliminated Italy. Score was 1-0. That, of course, was not the biggest story to come out of the game. The story of the game was Luis Suarez from Uruguay, who yet again bit an opposing player on the shoulder. He has done this before. He has paid fines for this before. FIFA is taking a look at the incident. They may fine him again. They may sit him down. They may suspend him for the rest of the World Cup. We'll wait and see what happens there.
He's a serial biter, this guy.
He's a serial biter.
How does he get away with it? I mean, how could you...
Soccer is weird that way in that, you have the referees who are watching, but it's such a large field, and they're so spread out that, a lot of dirty tricks happen on the soccer field. Speaking as someone who used to be the one playing dirty tricks on the soccer field. So, they didn't necessarily see it as it happened. Then the player who was bit, the Italian player, stands up and is pulling his jersey to show the bite marks on his shoulder. So that's when they realized that something may have happened, but they're just going to have to look at it after the fact.
So Italy not only loses, but they lose.
They lost and they got bitten. Yeah, what a way to lose. And one Mexican drug cartel found a very interesting way to smuggle marijuana across the border. They smuggled it inside of cardboard that was painted to look like watermelons. And it actually looks pretty damn good. We're going to tweet out a link to the article where you can see they almost actually got away with it, but U.S. Customs checkpoint got a little suspicious and put it under an X-ray to make sure that there was nothing hidden inside the watermelon, only to discover that there were millions of dollars worth of pot inside the fake watermelons.
fake watermelon.
Fake watermelons. I'm going to tweet out you'll have to see the photo. It's amazing. Because it really does look like a watermelon. Filled with pot.
You got it. 14 minutes after the hour now. Yes, indeed. So, Chris, first of all, this memo was released this week by the Justice Department. It's not that the Justice Department wanted to release it, correct? How long?
They were under a lot of pressure to do so. So
from your organization well,
and the New York Times, the ACLU and the New York Times sued to get these memos, and this is the first one. We're hoping we're going to be getting additional ones as this litigation goes forward. But this actually required a court order, not just of a district court, but this is a court order of a U.S. Court of Appeals in New York, and then even then. It looked like the Justice Department was going to be fighting it. But what happened, as you might remember, because we talked about this on your show about a month ago, the author of this opinion, David Barron, was nominated to be a federal judge in Boston. And a group of senators from both parties, so it was Rand Paul and both the Oregon senators and Mark Udall, went to the Senate floor and said, we're not going to move this nomination forward unless you let us as senators see the opinions he wrote on targeted killing, and you comply with this court order and you actually release this opinion. And so they hemmed and hawed, the Justice Department hemmed and hawed, and the White House did, but they finally agreed to let this opinion out. So this is the product of both political pressure and a court order.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Barron's been confirmed, and he's going to be on the Court of Appeals
for the rest of his life if he wants to be.
Right. Now, was the entire memo released or just parts of it?
So if you can go actually to aclu.org, and there's a link to the memo, so you can actually read the memo yourself. It's about 45 pages. The first 10 pages, you'll notice it goes from page 1 to I think page 11. So the first, you'll see the title, and then there's nothing but blanks until about page 11. Our guess is that first 11 pages are kind of the facts of this particular U.S. citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, and that all those facts are blocked out. Now that's something that in one sense I think a lot of people would say, well, of course we're going to block out all those facts, but what ends up being a problem is when you don't know all the facts and you're not allowed to see what the evidence is. You don't really have a good idea of what it takes for our government, to say that you as a United States citizen can be killed. Mm-hmm. So it actually would have been a much better thing if the government had allowed the American people to actually see at least some of the facts that they're claiming is enough to kill the citizen.
In its editorial this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, the New York Times. It wasn't this morning. Must have been yesterday. The New York Times lead editorial is a thin rationale for drone killings. So what is the basic argument that they say that yes, we have the legal constitutional authority to use drones to kill American citizens on foreign soil?
So here's the thing about this memo. We were waiting a long time to see this memo. We were expecting to see very detailed, thorough analysis, maybe analysis that we would disagree with, but we were expecting to see a very thorough analysis. Instead, what you see if you read through it is there's page after page dealing with this foreign murder statute. This is a U.S. statute that says an American cannot kill another American overseas. And there's no exceptions to it in the statute. So they spend a good 15, 20 pages trying to make up out of thin air an exception to it for this killing of this United States citizen. And basically what their analogy is that this is like a police officer running a red light, that police officers can, in pursuing a criminal, don't have to comply with every law that's out there.
What they call, I'm looking here, the public authority's justification.
That's right.
So a fire truck can go through a red light.
That's right.
Without getting a ticket because obviously he's on his way to a fire, and that's
but there is a world of difference between
pretty obvious,
between a fire truck running a red light and a drone being used to kill an American citizen.
Yeah.
And especially when these drones, when they've been used, have sometimes, of course, have often been fired at people who they did not intend to fire them at, and have sometimes ended up with huge numbers of bystanders killed in the process. And even with looking at United States citizens, there's Anwar al-Awlaki, who was targeted clearly as a United States citizen in Yemen, but so was his 17-year-old son, was also killed in a separate drone strike, who was not targeted by the United States, as well as 2 other United States citizens have been killed in drone strikes where they apparently were not targeted either. So there's a big difference between a fire truck running a red light and being able to send a drone to the other side of the world and to kill a United States citizen.
And is this still the operative? Is this still the memo under which the Obama administration is operating?
So here's the like little sleight of hand that goes on with the Obama White House is what they will say now is that they have this what they call the PPG, the Presidential Policy Guidance, which is their handbook on how to carry out drone strikes, and they say that's what their policy is. That's how they're doing it day to day. But this OLC opinion is the administration's view of what the law is.
Yeah.
So this means this is the power that they think that they have. Now, the president might not use all that power, but this is the power that they are claiming for themselves, because this memo has not been withdrawn. This memo is current interpretation
that was really my
of
question.
law. That's
Yeah.
right. Now, one other piece of this is what about the Constitution? We're talking about a United States citizen here.
Yeah.
What about due process rights? And there, I think we expected a much more robust analysis. And instead, what we find is literally it's a few pages at the end of the memo. Now, they're referencing another memo, which, of course, is still being hidden from the American public, that says, well, we talk more about this in this other memo. But in this particular memo, they lay out these due process rights that people have, and then they basically say, well, look, we're at war, and things happen when we're at war, and there's actually a line that they quote from a Supreme Court case saying the Constitution shouldn't blink, and due process rights don't blink at looking at a war situation and being able to deprive even United States citizens of basic rights.
It sounds eerily familiar to what we heard so much and so often from the Bush administration, in that, like in the build-up to the war in Iraq, they decided they were going to invade Iraq, and then Dick Cheney goes and looks for intelligence, cherry-picking intelligence to make the case for a decision they'd already made. It's results-driven. Yeah, it looks like this memo that they had decided they were going to kill al-Awlaki with a drone, and then they asked the Justice Department to give them some kind of backing legal argument to do so.
That's exactly right, because this memo is dated July, I can't remember the exact date, I think 14th, 2010. Anwar al-Awlaki reportedly had already been on the kill list for months. So the president, the administration had already made that decision to kill him, and now they were looking for the legal justification to do so. Now, the other
it just seemed to me that way. I didn't realize, in fact, it was that way.
It is. It is. And I think the other little piece of this whole thing that I'll just speak for myself. I found really chilling in it is when it talks about due process rights. It says there's a little line in there that talks about who makes the decision on whether your due process rights have been met. And it says the highest officers of the national intelligence community decide whether you qualify for the kill list and whether your due process rights have been protected. So that means that John Brennan and Admiral Clapper get to be the ones to decide whether you live or die.
Whoa. Yeah, that's scary as well. So much about this memo from the Justice Department, not exactly something we can all have a lot of confidence in. The ACLU sued along with the New York Times to get it released. Talk more about it with Chris Sanders when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
All right, well, we are out of time here on the drone issue. Too bad. But Chris Anders from ACLU, ACLU.org. I'm a member. You ought to be, too. I guess what this bottom line, Chris, is we're still in the dark to a large extent, right?
There's a lot more we need to know about this, but the program really should be stopped.
You keep at it. We count on the ACLU to do so. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thanks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you. Or you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new. 我会赢到5个总冠军戒指. If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood. I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour. How about it? It is the Bill Press Show on a Wednesday, June 25, coming to you live from our nation's capital. We are brought to you today in part by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox. Proud to work for America every day in all the different federal agencies. And you can find more about their good work across the board at their website, afge.org. Very interesting article in the Sunday New York Times that caught my attention about a different approach to the traditional wake memorial services for those friends. And family members who have passed away, where people, instead of lying in a coffin, as we see them so often with a rosary wrapped around their fingers, might actually be posed in a real-life situation. One woman, a photo on the front page of the New York Times of a woman sitting at her at her kitchen table with a can of beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other, wearing her sunglasses. And they say that's the way the family wanted it. Mr. Louis Charbonnet is the director of the Charbonnet-Labat Funeral Home down in New Orleans, who joins us on our news line this morning. And he was the one his company that prepared the body of Miriam Burbank at her kitchen table at her family's request. Mr. Charbonnet, it's good to have you with us this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so let me ask you, how did this practice get started, and was Miriam Burbank the first one that you had, had a request for like this?
No, Miriam was not. She was one of a few that we've done over the past few years, and it was a family request, and it was what our children wanted, and we tried to.
What was the first one?
First one was Uncle Lionel Baptiste, who was a famous musician, jazz musician in New Orleans.
Uncle Lionel, yeah.
Yeah.
Lionel Baptiste, and we did him standing up and had his drums surrounding him and so forth. And it's just people make these various requests, and we try to accommodate them.
There have been some criticism that this is disrespectful of the dead. What's your response to that?
Well, I don't think it's disrespectful. We wouldn't do anything that was disrespectful. We've been in business since 1883, and we respect the family's wishes. If a family wishes to do this, then this is what a funeral director should try to do. We're here to satisfy a family and make it easy for that transition from life to death. And as long as something is reasonable, we try to accommodate the families.
Is there is it more expensive or more difficult to prepare a body this way?
Well, it's a little bit more difficult and not necessarily more expensive. It's just according to what the family would want. It's according to the requirements that they want. It's just like any event that you plan. It's according to what the event is. This is an event that was planned, that was done at our funeral home. It was a cabaret setting. It was like a lounge. And the whole funeral home, the whole parlor was set up into a family setting where they were actually sitting into a club. I mean, each table had candles, and they had beers and shot glasses and a disc jockey and disco lights. So this is what the family wanted, and this is what we try to do. We do this on many occasions for jazz funerals. We're known for our jazz funerals, horse-drawn funerals, and bands and so forth, and we do this quite often.
So with the Miriam Burbank, it was actually like a cabaret? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was set up just like you went into a lounge, just like you went into a club. The family sat at tables.
Wow.
Miriam was sitting at the table. Sitting at tables, and they had everybody had their drinks and everything else, just like you went out for the evening, just like Miss Miriam went out for the evening, that she went out with her family for that evening.
She probably had done that many times with her family, right? I mean,
she used to do it quite regularly, and that's what they wanted. They said they wanted to spend their last evening together, and it was about 100 people who came the first evening, and then of course the next morning we had a religious service with the minister and so forth.
Yeah.
It went into a regular funeral service.
Now I was going to ask you about that. Now the next morning for the religious service, was she still sitting in her kitchen chair, or was she like?
She was still sitting at the chair, and she was cremated after the service. So
I got it.
Everybody got up from the tables, and after the funeral service, they had a shot glass, and everybody took a shot, and then they sent her off to glory.
Oh man, what a great way to go! Now I got to tell you now. So I was an altar boy when I grew up, and I've been to. And raised as a Catholic, I've been to countless wakes or viewings, as sometimes they're called, and they're always the same, lying in the casket with a rosary wrapped around their fingers, and maybe some little pictures, family pictures in there, whatever. Right. But so when people come in, they might be expecting something different. Do you ever find that visitors are shocked when they walk in and they find somebody like standing up in a corner or sitting at the kitchen table?
There is a shock factor. As a matter of fact, with Miss Miriam, one of the florists came to deliver flowers. No one was in the parlor at the time, and he actually asked Miss May where would she want these flowers placed. It is one of those things. And I'm a good Catholic boy too, and my wife had some some bad feelings about doing this, so I consulted with my parish priest, with my pastor, and he happens to be from Nigeria, and he said they do it in Nigeria quite often. And they do this quite often over the world with different positions of people. Puerto Rico is well known for it.
I was going to say, I thought the article in the New York Times talked about Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Right. I'm certainly not the first to do it in this country. It's done quite often in this country. It's just that this lady happened to be just a regular, ordinary person. She wasn't anybody of any notoriety or anything. She wasn't a musician. Mostly musicians we do this for in New Orleans or people who have some notoriety. But this person was just an everyday person who liked to go out and enjoy life, and this is what our children wanted for her.
My question is, you mentioned that it's happened elsewhere around the country. The way I hear this, New Orleans is one of the few places in America that would really embrace this. The view of death in New Orleans is different than anywhere else in the country, between the second line, funerals, and things like this. Is that something that you think is part of the culture in New Orleans, or do you think this would work somewhere else?
Well, we put the fun in funerals. We don't. It's a celebration of life, It's a life. Yeah. It's just a celebration of life, and we do it a little different in New Orleans. Most funerals, after each funeral, we have a big repast or a big dinner, and sit down and eat and play a little music and communicate with our family who scattered. And right now, these times since Katrina, people are scattered all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity for people to come together, just like a family reunion. So it's getting to be more and more of a gathering than anything else. People come and they view the remains, and then they just have a big family gathering. And it's been such a wonderful thing that if you see the way people react, people really, really feel good about it. And I had some serious apprehensions. I've been licensed for about 50 years. And this funeral home's been in business about 135 years. So we've been around for quite a while. We know what people want.
What's the most unusual family request you've had? And have you had any where you said, no, that just goes a little too far, we're not going to do that?
We've had some weird requests, which go a little bit far. People want to be turned upside down in the casket, and everybody come by and kiss their butts and stuff like that. We don't do those kind of things, but we have to be selective with what we do. Most of the things have been fun things and things that people really relate to. I mean, like we had a college professor that died who collected a lot of old Lincoln cars, and we brought all of his cars to the funeral. We had all kind of things. We have people have their pets. We had some carriage drivers. We brought their animals and carriage to the funeral home and put it in the courtyard, and everybody was there with them, and it was just we just do wonderful things,
I have to say I love New Orleans. I love going down there, and one of my favorite things in New Orleans is to visit the cemeteries, just because they are so unusual, right?
The cemeteries are unusual, and therefore we have caskets that look quite a bit different than they look across the country. We bury a lot of wood caskets, and they're designed differently to go into the crypts and to the graves that we have above ground. And most times, funeral directors from away don't understand that. Or why don't we sell very much metal caskets as you see across the country? Well, we just have to accommodate the graves, and the water table is so high here
that you have to bury above ground.
Right.
And they disintegrate, I guess, with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now I've been through the tour of those cemeteries. I know that well.
Yeah.
So I want
to see.
So, so I'll tell you what. I would love to attend next time I'm in New Orleans, one of your jazz funerals. I bet they are really swinging affairs.
Be here Saturday morning at 10 o'clock and you see one.
Oh, is that right? Just about every Saturday morning, huh?
You be here Saturday morning. We have one this Saturday for a musician, and we specialize in jazz funerals. We have 5 horse-drawn hearse, and we go all over the southern part of the country. Do jazz funerals and show people how they're done, and consult with people across the country the elements of jazz funerals and how to do them.
Now, I notice you have a website that people all around the country can check out, too. It's Charbonnet, Charbonnet, Charbonnetfuneralhome.com. That right?
It is. Yes, it is.
All right. Have you ever buried any talk show hosts at any wake for talk show hosts who are
Yes, we have. We've buried quite a few talk show hosts.
Sitting? Have you had any sitting up in their studio with their headphones
we haven't
on?
done that yet, but you could be the first. We'll come up to D.C. We'll take care of you.
Deal.
All right, that's a deal. We got an invitation. Mr. Charbonnet, next time I'm in New Orleans, we're going to talk, okay?
I'll holler at us. We've got a hot cup of coffee waiting for you, okay?
All right. I want to get down there while I'm still able to drink it.
You don't want to talk to him too soon to work out your arrangements here.
Well, we'll make out arrangements. You can make them out ahead of time.
Well, we have such a thing that's called pre-arrangements now, so we can take.
There you go.
We can bring you up to D.C. and we can do you here. You might want to stay down here and go on Birmingham, do things down here. So we can take care of you.
All right. Well, don't be in too big a hurry to do that, but we'll talk about it. All right. Hey, it's great talking with you, sir.
Let me just say this. We have a saying at our funeral home. Our soul goes to heaven, but our body comes to Charbonnet. So come on down.
There you go.
Oh, I love it.
There you go.
Soul goes to heaven, your body comes to Charbonnet. Charbonnet, Charbonnet. CharbonnetFuneralHome.com. Man, I got to tell you, I would want to do business with nobody else.
That's right.
In the funeral business, but Mr. Charbonnet.
I love that guy.
He puts the fun in funerals.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, here we go with 10 minutes to go before the top of the hour. Man, I got to tell you, I hadn't given any thought about it, but man, when I go, I want to talk to Louis. Before I go, I want to talk to Louis Charbonnet.
That's the guy to do it.
He is the guy to do it,
That's
right?
the guy to do it.
Yeah, right.
If you're going to go out with style, go out with someone who's got that attitude.
And this woman sitting there at the table with all of her, I didn't realize all of her friends were there too, little cabaret tables, and she's sitting up, looks great, has her sunglasses on. She has, listen, get this, a glass of red wine, and then there's a glass of beer, and then a cigarette in her hand.
I love it.
She's got everything. She's ready to go.
What
man.
else do you need?
No. And her soul
Besides
goes
a pulse.
her soul goes to heaven, and her body goes to Charbonnet.
Charbonnet.
Yeah, we put the fun in funerals. Man, I'll tell you. Well, it was fun on the political scene yesterday around the country with a lot of important primaries. Just to kind of recap here at the end of the program this morning, the biggest primary, of course, and the biggest upset was down in Mississippi, where Thad Cochran defied all the experts. He beat Tea Party challenger Chris McDaniel in the runoff 3 weeks ago. They were tied, and everybody said this is the end of it, end of the road for Thad Cochran. I'll tell you one thing. Chris McDaniel did not prove to be a very graceful loser last night. He accused Thad Cochran of winning only by cheating.
I guess they can take some consolation in the fact that they did something tonight by once again compromising, by once again reaching across the aisle, by once again abandoning the conservative movement.
Oh, yeah. Thad Cochran even reached out to African Americans who had not voted in the primary and were still eligible to vote in the runoff, and got a good number of them to vote for him. And again, Chris McDaniel saying, it just shows they don't care about good conservative principles.
So much for bold colors. So much for principle.
So much for principle. I know that. So much for bold colors. And
I love how he takes colors and turns it into like 7 syllables.
I know. And up in New York, Charlie Rangel, without the endorsement of Barack Obama, without the endorsement of Mayor Bill de Blasio, it looks like he still pulled it off and beat his main challenger. Congressman Greg Meeks yesterday, he was sent out to announce to the fans the results.
The chairman has won! The chairman has won!
And even though AP hasn't officially called the race, Congressman Rangel has declared victory. And he said, the other guy did a pretty good job based on what he had to work with.
I should congratulate Adriano for doing the best with what he had to work with and having a civil campaign.
Bless his heart.
Boy, bless his heart. The poor guy didn't have much, but he did as best as he could with what little bit he had. Bless his heart. There you go. And then out in Oklahoma, Jim Lankford, congressman, beat back a Tea Party challenge out there in Oklahoma as well. So the Tea Party didn't do too well yesterday, but still, those Republicans who won are no moderates. They're people used to be as far right as we knew. They're still quite conservative. And when we come back, I'll wrap things up with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, that honeymoon didn't last too long. Anybody who believed the election of California's Kevin McCarthy as the new majority leader would mean a more productive House of Representatives has already been proven wrong, because McCarthy has already shown himself to be just another partisan hack. His first public policy announcement, in fact, on any issue, get this, was a call to shut down the Export-Import Bank. What a colossally stupid move. I mean, the Exim Bank was established in 1934 for the sole purpose of helping American businesses sell their products overseas. Its license has been renewed by Republicans and Democrats ever since. Ronald Reagan was a huge supporter. And that's why the bank has got such strong support from today, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, and 865 different American companies which released a letter in support of the bank. In fact, the only people who want to shut down the Exim Bank are Tea Party Republicans who are against every government agency, no matter how much good it does. And now it looks like those Tea Party extremists in the House have a new champion by the name of Kevin McCarthy. My parting shot for today, folks. Go out and have a great Wednesday. Come back and see us again tomorrow morning. We'll be looking for you. Have a good one.